What up, though? Hola, mi gente. It's your host on the neighborhood and the streets the most, J Hodge with In Your Hood, InYourHood.com. And today is another segment of, another news series of, another news segment of Hood Sites. Welcome to Hood Sites. Well, of course, we sourcing out information and we plugging you with information that you just may not know. And we disrupting the information that you do not know, but also we giving you more extensive knowledge on the things that you may already know a little bit of. So we also have an understanding that everybody cannot sit down and read, and everybody don't have that type of time allotted to sit down, source out information, and seek out information. And that some people just don't make the choice to set aside a time to source out information. So we want to make sure we keep you plugged in and plugged with information. Now, like I always say, I start my mornings off at 4:30 in the morning every morning. So what I'm going to be doing is giving you the information from selective readings that I read every morning, because I read every day. Now, today's news segment is called Black Impact. Consumer categories where African Americans move markets. Continuing. Data, science, and analytics, marketing, and trade. Black consumers are speaking directly to brands in unprecedented ways and achieving headline-making results. Throughout 2017, popular brands witnessed the power of Black Twitter and the brand impact of socially conscious Black consumers. Through social media, Black consumers have brokered a seat at the table and are demanding that brands and marketers speak to them in ways that resonate culturally and experientially. If these brands want their business, and with African Americans spending $1.2 trillion annually, brands have a lot to lose. Continuing. Diving into dollars spent. Black consumers and consumers of color alike are making considerable contributions to the overall market. In some cases, representing more than 50% of the overall spending in key product categories. For example, half of the total spend, $941 million, on dry grains and vegetables in the United States in 2017 came from consumers of color. And Black consumers represented $147 million of the total spend in this category, which has recently made advances in product creation to meet the demands of their diverse buyers. Continuing. Mainstream manufacturers across other industries are also seizing the opportunity to create specific products that appeal to diverse consumers. Not so surprisingly, African Americans have cornered the ethnic hair and beauty market, ringing up $54 million of the $63 million total industry spend in 2017. Continuing. But marketers should find it interesting that Black consumers aren't just spending on products created specifically to appeal to them. In fact, in terms of sheer dollars, African Americans spent considerably more money in the general beauty marketplace last year. Continuing. Black shoppers spent $473 million in total hair care, a $4.2 billion industry, and made other significant investments in personal appearance products such as grooming aids, $127 million out of $889 million, and skincare preparations, $465 million out of $3 billion. Pardon the interruptions. Continuing. African Americans make up 14% of the U.S. population, but have outsized influence over spending on essential items such as personal soap and bath needs, $573 million, feminine hygiene products, $54 million, and men's toiletries, $61 million. Nielsen IQ research also shows black consumers spent $810 million on bottled water, 15% of overall spending, and $587 million on refrigerated drinks, 17% of overall spending. Continuing. Luxury non-essential products such as women's fragrances, $151 million of a $670 million industry total. Watches and timepieces, $60 million of $385 million in overall spending. And even children's cologne, $4 million out of $27 million. Also play well to an audience that's keen on image and self-care. Continuing. Our research shows that black consumer choices have a cool factor that has created a halo effect, influencing not just consumers of color, but the mainstream as well, said Cheryl Grace, Senior Vice President of U.S. Strategic Community Alliances and Consumer Engagement, Nielsen IQ. These figures show that investment by the multinational conglomerates in research and development to develop products and marketing that appeal to diverse consumers is indeed paying off handsomely. Continue. Companies should take notice of even the subtle shifts in spending, because black consumer brand loyalty is contingent upon brands' perception as authentic, culturally relevant, socially conscious, and responsible. In fact, 38% of African Americans between the ages of 18 and 34 and 41% of those aged 35 or older say they expect the brands they buy to support social causes. 4% and 15% more than their total population counterparts, respectively. Continuing. Moreover, black consumers' brand preferences are increasingly becoming mainstream choices, which illustrates that the investment in connecting with the black consumers can often yield sizable general market returns. For instance, sizable black spend in health and beauty categories has contributed to a diversification of product offerings that appeal not only to black consumers, but to the general market as well. Continuing. Black consumers account for a disproportionate amount of product sales in a number of fast-moving consumer goods categories. Again, with $1.2 trillion in spending power, African American consumers are an important population for smart brands that want to grow market share and brand preference. Continuing. More importantly, the data suggests that black consumer spending already significantly affects the bottom line in many categories and industries, and brands cannot afford to lose favor or traction with this segment without potential negative impact. Continuing. The enormous buying potential of black consumers has put a spotlight on many popular brands' ability to navigate the nuances of culturally relevant and socially conscious marketing. African Americans are more likely than non-Hispanic white peers to interact with brands on social media or to use social media networks to support companies and brands, 44% more likely. Continuing. As the almost nuclear power of social media collides with an increasingly educated, affluent, tech-savvy black consumer base, there's never been a more critical time for companies to build and sustain deeper, more meaningful connections with black consumers. Not only to grow their relationships, but to protect them. Continue. When it comes to African American consumer spend, there are millions, sometimes billions of dollars in revenue at stake, said Andrew McCaskill, Senior Vice President, Global Communications and Multicultural Marketing, Nielsen IQ. With 43% of the 75 million millennials in the U.S. identifying as African American, Hispanic, or Asian, if a brand doesn't have a multicultural strategy, it doesn't have a growth strategy. The business case for multicultural outreach is clear. African American consumers and all diverse consumers want to see themselves authentically represented in marketing, and they want brands to recognize their value to the bottom line. End of article. Now again, today's news segment was named and called Black Impact, Consumer Categories where African Americans Move Markets. Now, when we talk about cultural power, cultural identity, cultural challenges and issues, and cultural solutions, we see that these are things that we, as being the cultural people that make the culture what it is, that we have equity, we have power, we have control, we have will, we have wealth. It's in our hands. More specifically, it's in our pockets. But where we choose to put it has what's been a detriment to our economy culturally, and our livelihoods culturally, and to our culture overall. Now, as we can see, we've learned that our cultural group, our culture is being studied. It's studied at every turn, in every instance. Every dollar we spend is a part of a study. So with that being said, who should benefit from the studies of our cultural group if it is ours? We own our culture, our culture. It is our own. Now, that goes to say that we should not falter and we should not lack in studying our own culture, studying the issues, the challenges, the opportunities, and the solutions. Because if we are being studied, we need to be doing the studying of our own culture, so we can reap the true benefits and the true advancements, progressions, and gains from within our cultural group. And as is stated in this news segment today, they specifically said, and something that I want to highlight, that it pays off handsomely. Handsomely. So with that being said, if it pays off handsomely, our culture is the ones that need to be receiving the payments. So like I always say, it's time that you take the knowledge from this news segment and apply it to flex your cultural power, and to flex your cultural identity, and to flex your cultural morals, values, and principles. So like I always say, go to www.inyourhood.com and sign up for a free account. Make sure you explore every aspect of In Your Hood. We have live lectures, a live television show. We have the true essence of Black history. We have the historical figures and the iconic stories of Black figures, scientists, geniuses that made our life what it is today as Black people. And also, we have global Black news and local Black news, and of course Black businesses. And we are still in pursuit of Black businesses of all sorts, from the United States down to the Caribbean. And then we eventually have preparation, and we eventually have a scale to go global. But we will get to that in the near future. For the most part, follow us on Instagram at His Excellency _J.Hodge. Subscribe and follow the YouTube channel for In Your Hood, J space HAJJ, Hodge, J space Hodge. And check out all the content and material. And also there will be a new segment launching this upcoming week called 10 Toes Down in Your Stumping Grounds on our YouTube channel. But for the most part, like I said, it doesn't cost you anything to sign up for a free account on the website www.inyourhood.com. And if you haven't checked out Joe Biden's address to Congress this week, you need to check that out. If you haven't looked at the earning reports and the earning statements of the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies that was released this week, you need to. And if you haven't sat down to listen to the Federal Open Market Committee about the outlook of the economy and the market that's to come, then you need to pay attention to that also. And with all these things being said, like I always say, I'm going to get on y'all tomorrow.